This is Charlie Kirk. It was interesting. I was watching the speech last night and then following on Twitter, and I'm really just more interested to see how the right wing is reacting. And Charlie Kirk was on there, and it really seemed like they were reaching. I mean, this is why I hold very little stock in the State of the Union as being actually some type of blueprint for what. Because it never works out that way. Everybody talks about it like, oh, this is going to mean this or this and that, and they never do it. And 3 days later, it is other forces that are going to implicate what the administration does. But for a lot of people who tune into the State of the Union, that's basically their fill of politics for the next 2 months. And so it's interesting to me to see what, because I was going back and forth with a couple of friends. We watch these things together via, text, and they're Politico types. Mm. And, we were all like, oh, geez, oi. He's stumbling a little bit. And I'm like, what? I don't think it's going to make a difference. I think there's just too many other narratives, particularly the media is going to be so, ginned up about this war stuff.
Well, that's a whole separate conversation.
And everything else he was saying was being so benign in some ways.
Yeah.
Just like broad bromides and
flag waving,
and platitudes about like I say, I just measured how many times Susan Collins felt like she had to get up and applaud. And she applauded more than she probably did even during the Obama years. And that to me is like a sign of this has got to be really annoying to the right wingers. Here is Charlie Kirk as we watch his descent into I don't know what's going on. This dude, why is he wearing his hat all the time?
Get a new hat. Get a new hat.
No, the question is not get a new hat. The question is why?
We know why.
Why?
I don't want to go
hairline
there.
issue, maybe.
What is he having a hairline thing?
I'm not sure.
How can you pass as 22 if it's receding? I'm just making it. I'm just guessing.
Is he trying to look more like American?
Well, it's a twofer.
Hey man, I'm wearing a hat. Look at me. Okay, but here he is.
I mean, I like to wear hats, so let's go easy on the hat.
Or you're trying to butch up or something.
Yeah, but you're not wearing a hat with a massive American flag on it, right?
But it's also, you're not on camera that much. So, I don't know.
Matt uses it to display his,
and Bradley's
NBA
wearing his hat, but it's I don't know. Is it really doesn't want to brush his hair? I don't get it. All right, but go ahead.
If you want to declare war and supply weapons, go to Congress. If you want to actually end the war and broker peace, which is a Article 2, let's say, responsibility, commander in chief, you are responsible for diplomacy and for brokering peace, then open up the American energy entrepreneur.
Wait, what?
This entire Russia-Ukrainian debacle has exposed the fraud and the quasi-treason of the American green energy movement.
Whoa.
They are literally doing Russia's bidding, literally. He has an opportunity to create millions of jobs, supply Europe with LNG. It could be a massive stimulus right now. We could be in charge of our own energy, and we were under Trump. But that was before the entire left wing of the Democrat Party, which wants to keep everything in the ground, no new fracking, captured the Democrat Party.
Okay, pause it for a second. Bradley, will you pull up that list of legislation and executive orders that have inhibited fracking in this country? Please bring that up onto the screen. Let's just hear. Let's
no. I'm trying to give you reassurance with my eyes that there's no list.
There is no list.
There's no list.
There is no list. This is like why Greta Thunberg is responsible directly for this, because her advocacy of cutting down on and okay, how about this? Will you please bring up the list of all the sanctions that we have put on Russian oil energy exports? all that, the reason why they're not pulling that stuff out of the ground, and they're going to start in a moment, right? When oil starts getting over $110 a barrel, which it is, you're going to start seeing like that stuff is going to start firing up again in Dakota.
Oh my God, they're already pushing that. That was the number.
Well, they're pushing that, but I want to caution a little bit. Chase Woodruff, who we had on Left Reckoning recently, he has a good thread, and I put this up in Sound Polls, but I'll just read from it. He writes about like there's a bit of a mirage when it comes to the shale boom. Chase writes, it was in large part a production sugar high that was always unsustainable. The industry burned through crazy amounts of cash that investors threw at it for almost a decade, and well productivity never caught up to where the frackers promised it would. Yeah. Investors gradually started.
Yeah, here it is.
Investors gradually started to realize the numbers were never going to add up. The once powerful partnership between fracking companies and Wall Street is fraying as the industry struggles to attract investors after nearly a decade of losing money.
In other words, fracking is too expensive to be justified by the price of oil, even when it's above $100 a barrel. Now, he's on to something, though. There's something percolating under his hat. What we need to do is to unleash the entrepreneurial spirit of something that is more sustainable when it comes to energy.
What could that be?
Something that's like more sustainable, where once you hit a certain amount of like expenditure by the government, as if like you couldn't deplete it. I'm trying to think of like what that could be.
Yeah. I don't know. Well, I guess we'll never know. But one thing to know about fracking is...
I've always said there was something that we could shine a light on it in some way.
Or yeah, just blow onto it potentially. I'm just trying to incorporate.
Fracking, people should know, was technology developed using State Department funds also. Yeah. So
there you go.
Thank you, Hillary.
You're welcome. Now let's invade. It is, and I think to a certain extent, you see Charlie Kirk and et al. Doing this as a distraction from the fact that they've been saying for years, if not, months, if not years, how Putin is so great and this and that, and they don't care about Ukraine, and yes, Ukraine had it really coming and this and that, and they wouldn't find stuff about what was going on with Biden, et cetera, et cetera.
And Turning Points USA, paid for by fracking billionaires, Foster Friess, also Koch brother affiliated. They're getting out ahead of a narrative, I think, in that, like, if this does cause disruption in energy, and there's going to be a lot of upset about that, let's get ahead and blame green technologies as opposed to
seeing them as a solution. I mean, look, the bottom line is, if we want to disempower Saudi Arabia, if we want to disempower Russia, if we want to disempower these petro-states, there is a way to do it. And it is not by going after a finite resource that is expensive, both in terms of what it takes to get out of the ground and in terms of all the externalities it causes, like things like the planet warming and climate changing.
Pretty massive externality.
There is a way to do this. But the only reason why we don't do it is because of the enormous amount of money that some people are making from continuing to pursue fossil fuels.
But there is a third actor that also would be disempowered if the world were to move off of oil to the degree that we wanted to. That's also the United States.
I mean, would it though?
We're in the top 3 in terms of
production. I don't know how much we're selling around the world. I mean, we're certainly exporting some. There's no doubt about it. And there was a time where we were like the top producer and exporter. But does that, I mean, and maybe one could argue that like our military is built around the idea of, but we could reorient our military.
I agree with you. My point is just that like, it's not, there are other forces at play that are wanting to keep this structure intact, I would say. And it's not just about campaign donations. It's a way that the US is also like able to dominate and exert its influence on the global scale. It's on the United States' terms in a way.
I mean, I guess insofar as that, we control the sort of the keg, as it were, the spigot in the keg. And
it's been flipped on us now that Saudi Arabia is cozying up a bit more to Russia. MBS clearly doesn't like Biden, so that's a bit of a different scenario.
But that's the thing is, like, we have a capacity to adjust to that in a way that, like, we can own it, and that's why you hear a lot of talk about intellectual property in this, that a way that like Saudis couldn't, like
Yes.
these states that are entirely dependent on petroleum.